Hey guys, the stain dried and now I have masked off most of the cabinet so I can paint the bottom here. I'm going to be using the same deep red mahogany I used on that Admiral 24 C16 a few weeks ago. I think that'll come out nice. Once that dries, I'll be removing all of this paper and clear coating the rest of the cabinet. Well, I think that turned out pretty nicely. Keeping in mind that this area is barely visible, really I just wanted to touch it up because it was a little dinged up. Now the stain's pretty well dry, but before I spray the whole set I want to clean up around the rim here. There's a few flakes on this black paint and I want to stain this front edge here. Now, I was going to mask off this whole front again before I clear coat it because I thought that this front couldn't come off. But on closer inspection, I think those are really small screws down in there. I thought they were nails at first. So I'm going to take an attempt at getting those out. They're pretty rusted and pretty bent, but if I can get all this whole front off, it'll save me a lot of time for the final stages of refinishing this cabinet. I was able to get that front faceplate off after removing this silly assortment of screws. About half were flat bladed and half were Phillips. And here we are. I've already cleaned this up and clear coated it. I used some odorless mineral spirits because I wanted to be very careful not to remove the lettering. Sometimes using water or ammonia based products can start lifting this off. What this actually is just a large piece of aluminum plate with a bunch of holes stamped out. And this wood grain is actually some type of painted or decal material. And then this gold stuff is like a crinkle stamped out piece of spray painted brass paint. Now this brown area, the simulated wood grain, was chipping and starting to flake in a few spots and along the edge. So what I did is I took some clear lacquer and a paintbrush and painted along the edges. Probably use something like clear nail polish too, just to keep these edges from curling up any further, and same in this damaged spot here. And then I clear coated the whole thing with some deft semi-gloss lacquer. Gave it about 6 coats, so I think it's will stand up to plenty of wear and tear for a long time to come. Now as for the rest of the cabinet. Well, there's the cabinet out on the back porch. Much easier to work with now with no faceplate because I don't need to mask anything. I've put a couple coats of deft semi-gloss lacquer on it. I kind of flipped a coin between gloss and semi-gloss won out. I think it looks pretty good. I've got 2 coats on so far. It's pretty well dried and has a nice sheen to it. So I think I will put on maybe 6 more coats and let it dry overnight before moving on to the next phase. Well, I managed to get about 4 coats of lacquer on this cabinet before the temperature plunged down into the 30s over the weekend, and that's just too cold to be spraying lacquer out on the back porch. So while I wait for temperatures to get back up to normal, I'm going to tackle the faceplate on this, which is sort of a giant rubber cup. The CRT face sits into this depression, and then there's a rectangular cutout for the viewable area. It's a bit dirty. I haven't done any cleaning to it whatsoever yet. There appear to be some really fine scratches in it, but before I really assess that, I'm going to clean this up. First, I'm going to use some mild dish detergent and warm water, and then I'm going to use this Novus No. 1 plastic cleaner. Well, I made a nice little discovery while cleaning this bezel. With a little bit of gentle persuasion, the faceplate actually comes out. So now I can work with them separately. The rubber portion cleaned up nicely. I'm going to do a little bit of research online now to see if there's a product that can maybe bring a little bit of shine back to this. I'm thinking maybe an automotive product that's used on dashboards or vinyl maybe. Which leaves us with this. After cleaning with the dish detergent, I spritzed it a bit with the Novus #1, and then buffed it out with a clean cloth, and here we go. It's nice and clean now, but it is covered with a network of fine scratches. So I'm going to now try some of the Novus #2, which is a fine paste abrasive. The way you apply this is squirt a little bit onto a clean soft cloth and rub it on, and I'll let it dry to a haze, and then buff it out with short, sharp motions with a clean cloth, very similar to applying paste car wax. So let's see how that goes. It turns out that this Novus #2 works just fine on this plastic. To give you some idea of how it works, it's this brownish paste here, squirt some onto a clean cloth, and then rub it in a circular motion. And according to the directions, you never want to let this dry out while you're still rubbing it. So if it does start to dry out, squirt more onto the rag and keep going. The idea is to keep it a wet slurry the whole time you're trying to buff the scratches out. And after it dries to a haze, take a second clean cloth and start cleaning it off. And the key I've found, and as it says in the directions, is don't just do large swipes. Kind of pick away at the dried surface and constantly rotate the cloth for a new clean spot and keep going at it. And yeah, so far still got a few scratches to go, but it's definitely helping out. Shouldn't be too much longer now. Well, that worked out fairly well, but there's still one or two scratches. There's one right about here. Hopefully you can see that. So what I'm going to use on that is Novus #3, which is a more aggressive paste than the #2. The idea with this is to, again, take a small piece of cloth, squirt the product onto it, and you rub at right angles to the scratch. So in this case, the small scratch is running this way. I'm going to rub this way. I guess the idea is that the abrasive will hit those edges of the scrape and or scratch and wear it down. After that, back to the #2, and then finally the #1. Hopefully this will be done fairly soon, because it is tedious work. And here we are. Pretty darn good. Not perfect, but a heck of a lot better than it was. So now I'm back to waiting for the weather to get warmer and hopefully wrap this project up real soon.